Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Dana Galvin, SVP of Finance and Systems for Customers Commercial Finance. Thanks for joining me, Dana.
Appreciate you having me, Jesse. Glad we could make this work.
Yeah, it's great having you on the program. I think, unfortunately, I see you once a year for the EF Cares golf tournament, so it's nice to kind of see you twice, even though it's virtually, on here a couple months later. But
Well, we'll have
hey,
to get you up
glad to
to
have.
we'll have to get you up to Portsmouth so I can see you, outside the golf. We'll just do golfing up here.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. But like I was saying before I hit record, we'll tackle like April. I think is when it's nicer. May.
When am I
Um,
gonna golf anyway? So works out.
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. On the East Coast last week, and I was walking around New York City, and I'm like, okay, this is why I live in
Cold.
Arizona.
Yeah. City's cold, right? Yeah, we're obviously further north but any city is cold. And you get that wind and on the water, and it can be brutal this time of year.
Oh, brutal, that's for sure. For Dana, for those individuals who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career in equipment finance?
Yeah, so I started kind of as a customer actually. When I was graduating college, I actually financed or I helped start up a rubbish company, and I actually was a customer. I financed a lot of trucks and open top containers. And after that company sold, someone asked me to join Direct Capital at the time, which is since been sold to CIT and now First Citizens Bank. And I left there eventually, and ended up joining a group that has been together for 30 years, over 30 years, some of them. I've now been with them for almost 14 years. We started up Customers Commercial Finance, LLC, which we are a subsidiary to Customers Bank. We started this up, it'll be 11 years in March. So
Wow. Okay. And then
it's been
as far as roles within these organizations, Dana, have you always been on the system side?
No, so when I was at Direct, I started actually in credit. I started in credit, and then during that period, it was during the 2006 era. So there was a lot of changes within the landscape of our industry, and I ended up cross training with someone in operations, and I trained them in credit. Direct Capital had a lot of creative ways to, keep current in the market given that time period, and it gave me opportunities to cross train and learn. I left there after kind of doing credit and operations, and I went to for a short stint. I was at a year at Time Value. Time
Okay.
payment. Sorry, not time value, time payment.
Okay. Okay.
So I was at Time Payment for a year, and I was a program manager, which was great. Interacting with all the brokers. I was on the broker side, bringing in business. But there was an opportunity that I got referred to Sam Smith, who runs Customers Commercial Finance. I joined him as a program manager, which is essentially inside sales, and I did inside sales, and then went from being a program manager. Then I went into capital markets, and did capital markets for the group at Everbank, with them, and left. We left there, six of us left there to start Customers Commercial Finance for Customers Bank. And my role here is continue to evolve and transition. So since I've been with the group here, I was originally going to oversee our capital markets, but obviously it was a brand new portfolio. So I really was tasked into doing the implementation for Spire, our operating system. I worked with LTI. There was a big, obviously, part of Aspire is a big accounting backbone. So worked really close with accounting at the bank and building that out. Since going live and as we've continued to evolve, we came here really with our credit manager, our chief credit officer, and our head of operations. and then we had a sales team. So really came down to I started picking up kind of all the back end servicing. So eventually I took over. I now oversee cumulatively over the years. Right now I oversee all of our accounting up to the bank, finance accounting, all of our technology. I oversee all of our, my team does all the bookings. We do all the invoicing and payment posting. We oversee all the Super Trump and tax lease pricing, all the portfolio payoffs, terminations. Um, we oversee sales tax filings and our property tax filings. Um, and yeah, any miscellaneous things in between there. So
Because you raised your hand and someone's like, "Who's going to run this implementation?" And Dana's like, "Me." And now, you know, 14 years
yeah,
later, it's here. Now you get everything.
I mean, I will say I love the change of pace, it's certainly not the same thing every day, and I have a great team that supports me and I try to support them, but for how large we are, it's a small team. I just have a team of four, so we're currently sitting, obviously we're publicly traded. Our subsidiaries sitting right about 1.3 billion. So we have 35 people in total now. But my team of four, for that size portfolio, payoffs and servicing and modifications and all the invoicing and payment posting, they do a phenomenal job, and we're very lucky to have the team I have here.
Sure. And you have to become very efficient, especially as you guys continue to grow.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah. So kudos to you for that. And coming from a sales side or credit side, you can kind of that's always refreshing as someone who's typically always just been in business development my entire career, right? I think probably always would be in business development, right? But it's like you understand. It's nice when you have ops people who kind of understand the
Yeah.
trials and tribulations of that, and especially the credit side too. So, is there a part of an organization that you haven't, I guess, had your hand in yet?
No, I mean, we kind of joke around that I went from a customer to kind of inside sales to credit to operations to back end. So, I've been very fortunate to, you know, be involved in those because I think it's only made me stronger. And especially when you're doing an implementation like Aspire, I think, trying to have knowledge of that, without dragging in everyone to that. So, because when we came here and while we were doing that, we were still doing business. We were actually booking deals at the bank's system. So you know, while we built Aspire, we were still, actively working on deals. So to try to drag them away from doing deals day one, you know, I tried to take on as much as I could with that build so we could,
Building
you
a
know,
plane while it's in the air flying, it's
that's,
always nice, and that's something relatively new because I mean, in direct capital, that was what Salesforce, InfoLease,
when I
then
was there, they
ever.
were on Rapport and Sales Logic when I was there. I mean, it was a long time
Oh,
ago.
well, I was gonna say I wasn't sure if our paths crossed because I think I had direct as a customer in 2007.
Yeah,
When Leiter was a controller and Donahue was on the sales side.
yeah, that's certainly a lot of change, since then. But
Oh yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
yeah, Jen Britton on my team worked for Dave Leiter. And, she's obviously my accounting side. But yeah, when I was there was Sales Logic on the front end for the salespeople, and they were on Rapport at the time, and then InfoLease on the back end. So they really had three systems.
And then Everbank was what IFS LeaseWorks,
Yes. LeaseWorks,
and
and they had Salesforce, but it was back then it was not customized. It was kind of almost like you just bought it, and at least they didn't have anyone that kind of integrated anything when we were there, so it wasn't
or
as utilized as it is today for us. So
so then you just went right in. You're like, okay, I'm going to learn a third system. Well, I guess you weren't really on the InfoLease side of direct systems anyhow. So yeah, so that is definitely a big undertaking. It's not like you
yeah,
had familiarity. Typically, people have familiarity with the platform when it's selected. So
and when we started that was back in 2015, and Aspire was, I think we were like the ninth. I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I think
No, no, no,
we
no,
were
no.
early.
I
We were
mean,
early back then
I mean,
for
because
Spire.
obviously we first met at an
Yep.
LTI user conference back in the day, and I want to say the first live instance of Aspire was probably 2013, is when
Yeah.
they
When we started, it was on 507. I mean, when we
ooh
first took.
507.
Yeah, we were very early adapters for Aspire because most of the customers are still in Lease Plus, and so we were definitely, I think, top 10 that were on, at least, when we first did it. And obviously the way LTI, I think now is doing things compared to back then is certainly evolved and changed. So back then it was kind of a, blank slate, build it, you know,
What do you
and
got? What do
here
you
you
got? What
go.
do you got, Dana? We can
Here
do
you go.
this. Let's go.
So,
Ah,
but,
the good old days of software that unfortunately I don't think are ever
I mean, everything, yeah. I mean, everything continues to evolve. I mean, you look back at anything and you're like, gosh, you don't know how you made it through some of those times compared to the way you do things now, you
coming.
know? So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, everything now is just like rapid fire, and it's like, what do you mean you don't? What do you mean? Okay, well, I can figure something else out then if you can't figure it out.
yeah.
No,
Yep.
no patience. 10 years later, Dana. There's no
No,
patience.
that's one thing. It's just speed. That's one thing that doesn't change, I guess.
It's correct. All
So,
right, so I know you've briefly introduced customers already, but 1.3, I think you said 35 employees in the equipment
yep,
finance.
yep.
Um, you're in Portsmouth.
We're in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Um, we've been downtown since our start. We just opened up a new office for growth, growing to that 35 people. Even though we do have a lot of team members all across the U.S. that are remote, we do have a majority of the people here in our office. So we have a brand new suite that we built out. 2 year coming up on 3 years. But we're 2 blocks over for many years, and it's a beautiful location. Love downtown Portsmouth if you've never been. It's a gorgeous, small city right on the water. 1700s. You have a lot of old buildings, historic buildings here, so it's beautiful. It's quiet. It's great.
Great food,
Um,
great seafood. Just
yes.
yeah.
If you like seafood. Yeah, we started obviously mid-ticket. The industries that we serve are construction, more in a specialty of crane and utility. We do marine, general manufacturing, machine tool, helicopter and fixed wing, franchise, packaging,
Oh,
plastics, food processing, and then specialty vehicle, which is like motor coach and other things like that. We used to start only mid-ticket, as you are aware, but for the viewers, we brought on John Donahue, who brought on a team coming up on 3 years to add on a small ticket team. Obviously, small ticket, mid-ticket, very different. So we strategically brought on a team that is very knowledgeable. They all came from Direct Capital, or at the time CIT, previously known as Direct Capital. So now for a ticket size, we do deals from 500,000 up to 25 million. We will go below 500,000, but you know, we're, we're trying to stay above 100,000 for even for small
okay.
ticket.
I wasn't sure if the micro stuff would ever come into play
No, we're
or
we are, if there's, a motor coach or there's certain equipment that's 300, but usually we're trying to make sure it's packaged with, other stuff. So, for the most part, we're staying, 250,000. If we strategically for a customer or someone do $100,000 deal, we will, but, 250,000, 300,000 and all the way up to 25 million. And we
got it.
have some
And
exposures that are up to 50 million. So.
that's fantastic. And is it all direct business?
We do capital markets. We have a capital markets desk, so we work with obviously a lot of the, other banks. Then we have a big, vendor business. And then we obviously work with, intermediaries.
Wasn't sure if there's any broker relationships there,
Intermediaries for me,
being
intermediaries is
broken.
brokers. So yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
we will work with certain intermediaries that we've known. It's not we're not generalists, so usually if it's an intermediary, they're kind of like a captive, for some of the vendors, or they're very specific in, whether it's franchise or machine tool. It's usually something that they're only in one specific thing, and they're kind of a specialist.
Got it. Got it.
So
Thank you. It's a very thorough overview. So I appreciate that.
yeah.
And then you said you got in there because of a rubbish removal business you started in college.
When I was graduating college, I was asked to be part of a startup that was for rubbish. So wasn't it was a family and another family that was involved, just starting it up. So I was fresh out of college and working with people that I've known for years, and we started up a company that grew to about 9 trucks or 8 trucks and about 120 open top containers. So it grew considerably, given the time frame. Again, similar to right before I joined Direct Capital, because that's where I went afterwards. The business certainly is that at that time was a lot of change with the market and the recession. So for someone like myself, coming out of college, there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. So going from starting something up and the market coming out to then joining Direct Capital and the transitions that I saw with them, I will say builds character and builds knowledge that you kind of learn. You learn from that. So luckily both were great opportunities for me that resulted in something that has been able to really established me in my career. So even though it was a challenge for a lot of people and a challenge for me, you look back at those challenges and it makes you better. You learn from those.
Sure, sure. And there's a couple things to unpack from that. Number one is you're starting a business, right? You went to 9 trucks real quick. From a cash flow perspective, financing or leasing was definitely a lot better, right? Than laying out all
Yeah.
the cash for that. So you saw that kind of firsthand.
Yep. Yeah.
And what it's like for credits for a startup and everything else too, where so you got some good exposure there. I mean, I've joined equipment finance in August of 2005. So similar time frame, right? Where it's like,
Yep.
oh, everything's great, and then then not so much.
Yeah. I knew Pawnee and Financial Pacific. Um, from actually financing some of the equipment. So before I joined Direct, and at that time they were obviously working very closely with, back then Pentech and Financial Pacific and Pawnee and stuff. A lot of good people there that they partnered with over the years. And I actually was familiar with a lot of them. That's what got me into the industry, arguably.
Sure, sure. Interesting. Some of those names. There, I mean, FinPac is still FinPac, but they were
Yeah.
acquired.
Yep.
Direct was acquired, and Pawnee unfortunately is no more.
And
Well,
Pentech is
no,
no more
I
either.
guess Pawnee was acquired.
Yeah,
That's why they're no more. And
I know.
Pentech, where was Pentech out of?
California.
Hmm.
They were big back then.
Huh.
We did a lot with them. So
So in your role on the system side, um, we talked a little bit before about more on the Salesforce stuff you're doing, but are you seeing any new trends in technology, Dana, that you guys are looking to leverage?
obviously, you hear the hot topic. A lot of people want to adopt some fashion of AI. We AI is a big topic, arguably, and how can you leverage that and how can you incorporate that? And I think that's still in a lot of discovery phase. I do think that there will be a lot more, adoption to that. But again, I think that's going to come with time and seeing how it can fit with your business and who can integrate that and how can it integrate. I think integration is a big part of that, whether Salesforce to Aspire, how we're integrating that currently and the APIs that really map that. I think it's technology is great, but technology, you know, you gotta you gotta be very methodical. You want to be quick, as quick as you can, but same time you want to be methodical because once you build something, sometimes it can have a stronghold on you. So want to make sure that we're doing it right, we're taking our time, and we're building it, in our opinion, the correct way, and trying to map out our, in short sprints what we envision. So we haven't gotten to really the AI functionality just yet, but it is something that we're closely monitoring to see how we can best adopt that as we continue to map our systems together.
Yeah, and it's interesting from your background and I guess the ticket sizes that you guys are going after, where it's like, yeah, I'm sure it could help, but you still need a set of eyes on it and
Yep.
approval
Yeah,
process.
we're given that even for a small ticket that we're really kind of they're still decent size. A $300,000 small ticket deal is still a
Eh,
sizable deal, and so I don't think we're anytime soon getting into any type of credit scoring, automatic credit scoring or anything. We're still looking at every single deal.
sure, sure. So when you started in 2006, obviously, right, at the
Yeah.
beginning of the, I don't know, what was that called? The Great, I don't even know what it's called. Financial
The
crisis.
great the Great
Was that,
Recession. The
was that,
recession.
I was like, I was just like, wait, I don't want to say great. It was like,
Yeah. The
um,
just the recession.
and then kind of, we've been in this little state for the last couple of years here coming out of the pandemic. Like, where do you see like equipment finance now? Then,
It's funny, well, it's not funny, but the industry itself has evolved so much. It's, we're blessed. I know, at least I consider myself blessed with some of the veterans. They were really some of the, older veterans that we still are able to work with. Some were starting to retire. They were really some of the early, people that started equipment finance. It's still relatively new in perspective. It's not like traditional banking, and you really think about, and again, you and I are similar. When we started, you think about started shortly after there was a recession after we started. We've gone through a pandemic. There was a banking crisis. So we've really seen a lot in arguably a short period. And I think banks right now have generally tightened credit or pulled back selectively just due to regulatory or capital pressure. The current state and is regulation heavy. There's a big need for stronger compliance, managing third party risk. While I believe independents are continuing to grow, they're not as heavily scrutinized. They can adopt technology faster. Where obviously, some of the banks and the regulations with adapting that and getting stuff approved, and obviously the protection of malware and all the stuff is critical to protect personal information and that. So certainly not. Um, I think the it's really between those. I think banks are obviously still, obviously banks still have an effect on independence because that's where they get their funding. But they're just not as heavily scrutinized. They can maneuver a little quicker and they can adopt technology faster, which is, I think, critical right now. The that heavy regulation, compliance and stuff is just since the banking crisis has been, and you add in, blockchain or and digital currency, banking as a whole and the environment with um you know with the government and all that, just how much it affects all of us, is certainly had a big impact. So
are you finding it now? Now, granted, 14 years, right? Can you remember back to the independent days compared to a bank?
it is. I'll call it. I think the proper term is cowboys.
I was gonna say the Wild West, right? It's like, yeah. When you want
It
done, let's
was
do it. Go
yes,
build that. Go, let's go. Wait, what
yeah.
are the tax ramifications of this?
And I will say independents still, I think today, they're starting to feel it because they can't sell something, to a funder if it's not. But it, I think it's certainly not as bad as when we first started, and prior to even you and I joining. You hear some of the stories. It certainly has evolved to something that, and it continues to evolve. I mean, since the banking crisis, the what I've seen since then, and with audits and everything else like that is just, and the need for compliance, it's certainly just continued to, hamper a little bit. So, but it's what is needed. It's what, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it
Some
is.
level of oversight isn't bad, but it's
No.
just when it becomes a little like ridiculous, you're like, all right, dude, like I don't need a quarter the audit.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as they keep consumer and commercial separate, obviously we're commercial lenders, and they're trying to put some consumer lending onto us, and that's where I draw the line. That's consumer lending. I can appreciate what they have to go through, and the regulatories, and obviously traditional banking with deposits and cash. I get it, but that's the one advantage to having equipment finance and leasing and commercial lending is that, we haven't been tied to some of that stuff, and they're really starting to muddy the waters a little bit. So hopefully they continue to keep those separate as they go down this path.
That goes into a different platform. Somebody else,
Yep.
that'd be somebody else's.
Yeah. So so we can hope. I mean, so
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. And next topic of conversation I want to have is just kind of industry relationships. And kind of what they meant to your career as far as just people that you've worked with. Um, throughout the last couple of decades. I know I've seen you at a handful of conferences, but I guess why almost 2026, 20 years.
yeah.
I guess what keeps you in equipment finance, Dana?
I love the team I'm with. I mean, Sam Smith, president of Customers Commercial Finance. He's been in the industry since the 80s. He's had people follow him since the 80s. Um, he started up his own independent. That's actually above him on the floor. Sorry, the floor below them was actually when Direct Capital started. Sam owned his own independent, and at that time, what was Direct Capital, which included John Donahue and some of the other well-known people that were there. They were more micro ticket and anything that was of size. John met Sam because they actually physically walked a deal upstairs and asked them if they could do that deal. So they met, back then, early 90s when Sam, was a couple years into his company, which he subsequently sold to a larger company, which eventually I think sold to Wells Fargo, and they were there for 5 years. But Sam has had people follow him since the 80s. I mean, he's had, 30 years of people following him. For me, our chief credit officer, Fred Clough, and our head of operations, Sheila Mann, and as well as Sam, obviously, for me, the access and the knowledge that they have and what they've built and the places they've been. Obviously the second bus on the stop for me with them. And we've been here almost 11 years, but I've learned, I'm grateful and thankful for everything I've learned from them. And obviously, I wouldn't be where I am with the opportunities that have been presented to me and overseeing everything I see for this group and with how much we've grown here, if it wasn't for the knowledge I've learned from them. And you know, I would say anyone coming up in the industry, I would, when I hear stories about when they started, there was training programs, cross training, something that just doesn't exist today. People today are just so siloed. They want you to come in, they have check boxes, or everything's automated. There's very little opportunities today, and for anyone coming up in the industry, I would want what the opportunities that I've had. I would tell them or I would advise them to raise your hand. schedule something with a veteran that's in your office. They have a wealth of knowledge that I think is unfortunately going to fall off as people retire. And I think, it's for me, it's a concern because I think that knowledge that um, we can't fully rely on automation and speed and siloed. You need to have people that truly understand our business and why we do what we do, and the outcome of that. It as a company that protects us if something goes legal, if it protects us if this. So that is critical on the structure of deals and why we require the documents we require and why credit it requires that. I mean, without that knowledge, there's going to be, there could be some trouble, which would create more regulations, as you do that. So, I would advise anyone to, you know, set up that meeting. It's going to be extremely valuable for you personally, but also for the industry. It's needed.
No, I mean, so many good things there. I mean, you're right. I mean, the next 3 to 5 years, we're starting to see it now with some people that are like, you know, retiring.
Yep.
In the next 3 to 5 years, like you said, those people that have been in here for 30 to 40, I mean, it's basically been growing this industry. Um,
Yeah.
they're going to be gone.
Every single one of those people literally went, most of those that are 30, 40 years in, went through some sort of cross training or training program, something that just doesn't
Oh yeah,
exist
yeah, yeah. I mean, the
anywhere.
GE. Anyone who's been with GE, I talk about that training program on here.
Yep.
And there's a few. I mean, you have like Stripes and some,
Yeah.
maybe some others, but it just doesn't get you kind of all of that stuff unless like
Yep.
you're just
And
you
I
or you
think
just work for across departments. Like
yeah.
you said, people are siloed. They're sitting behind a lot of computers too, interacting with people like this, and it's not
Yep.
either.
And it's so automated because of speed. We were talking about speed earlier and that requirement for speed, that um that need for speed and service and immediate, everyone needs everything immediately. And that's that culture to service the customer that quickly and everything else and compete to get that market off off the market and to do all that. I understand why and how critical that is, but it's created this checkbox automation and we're losing that ability to really understand what we're doing in some respects.
Yeah, and what people also don't realize is you can have as much technology as you want, but in your markets that you're in and ticket sizes, a lot of it's still handshake. And, you know, checking a box isn't going to make a client come back for a second go. It's their client
Yep.
experience that's going to make someone a forever customer of yours.
Yep.
Um, and that's one of those things where I just don't think that some of the young people understand, where it's at the end of the day, it's still a handshake industry, which is why I love it. Um,
Yeah.
because it's just you do a good job, good things are going to happen. Step
Going to a
outside.
cut going to a customer visit and seeing their operations and seeing the stuff that you finance for them, and going understanding their business and being able to lend more to them so their business can grow and watching those businesses grow as you continue to lend to them is, I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, 100%. That's fantastic, Dana. Thank you for sharing. So I do ask everyone who comes on the program to give me a fun fact about themselves. So besides working, which you work 18 hours a day, what do you enjoy doing for those other 6 hours a day?
Oh, you may be aware of this. Actually, you may be only aware of a few of them, but I think the fun fact about myself, because it's rare today, I have 6 kids. Um, so my oldest is 12, and my youngest is only 9 months.
And you
So
mentioned you were having another one, or you just had another one in August. I was like,
yeah, the youngest is
wow,
9 months. It's
hey, it's fantastic.
it's like yeah, my wife is an amazing person. And I'm not saying that just because she's going to listen to this. She truly is an amazing person that
Hey, if she has to
she's,
deal with 6 kids and you, absolutely.
yes,
It's
she's a saint. She loves it, and she's at home. She's at home with them and homeschools them, and we
oh, okay.
it's certainly fun. And I always tell new parents, I said, days are short, or sorry, days are long and years are short. It's amazing how quickly kids grow up, and you almost lose sight when they hit puberty or turn teenagers, and you're like, where did the time go? It's just when you're in the thick of it, running around the sports and engaged in work and travel and all that stuff, you lose sight of how quickly they grow up. And my wife and I are very fortunate that she could be home with them, and we absolutely love having a big family.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Jeremy only has 18 more months of high school left. Crazy,
And it goes, I mean, it just goes
crazy,
like that, doesn't it?
crazy. It's like, wait, what? Like, okay, sure. So of the six, 50-50 boy girl, what's the
5 boys, 1 girl. We had
okay?
four boys in a row. And then
Okay.
the fifth one was a girl, and the sixth one was another boy.
And you were just like, come on, let's help this ratio. And then, oh,
Um, I listen. She's a little princess. She's gonna be. She
hey,
loves.
should be well protected. Put it that way.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about much. It's gonna be so. At least I got 1 girl. We the sixth one. I mean, we were thankful that we have a sixth, but yeah, I was surprised, and we're very thankful that we got at least the 1 girl. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dana. I wasn't sure if you were going to go into, I can grow a beard like this because, I mean, if first of all, that would take me like 10 years and it would be 8 colors. So just kudos.
I don't think any of my kids have ever seen me without a beard. So I'd be. Thing is, it's a commitment to grow it back. So everyone jokes around, well, shave it off and see what it looks like, but it's too much of a commitment to grow back. It's part of me now.
I don't think I've seen you. However, I think your LinkedIn photo is without a beard.
True. Yeah, I think that was actually a. You can tell I know exactly where the photo came from. It was actually from my wedding. I think I snipped it out. Back then, we didn't have. I've gotten professional photos, and I still continue to keep that there just because no one recognizes me when they meet with me.
That's fantastic, Dana. My last question I have for you is, why should someone want to do business with customers commercial finance?
I appreciate you asking that. I would say 2 things. One, we talked about knowing our customers, going out doing customer visits. We definitely lend very deep with the customers that we know, our direct relationships. We appreciate them, and they're like an extension of our family here. And we talked about how our family here has been together, many of us for 15, 20, 30 years together. And I feel like that's a rarity today. And our customers, we know them personally. Our sales guys, our president, myself, we've been, all of us have been to many of our customers' locations numerous times. We go to events they may host, whether it's a golf event, whatnot. So we're part of that. And then the other big thing for us is the industry is extremely good at servicing mid-ticket. They're extremely good at servicing small ticket. However, I'm not really familiar with many people that are efficient servicing both. We're trying to offer our vendors and even our customers kind of one place that can effectively service both. I'm not familiar. We're not familiar. We've talked about that internally here. We're not very familiar with anyone that really is servicing both very well. And with the addition of small ticket team under John Donahue, we feel that we are going to be able to offer that, and we're already starting to do that. But that's something that I think is rare. That for customers and our vendors that we can offer that and be efficient at it.
Well, perfect and well said. Dana, I really appreciate your time today. Keep up all the good work that you're doing. Congrats on a successful 2025. Now you just have to figure out a way to, add 20% to whatever, keep going into
That's the name of the
2026.
game. It doesn't matter what you did last year. It's what you're gonna do for me next year.
At least now
So
you can go bust John Donahue's chops a little bit, say, come on, dude, let's go.
I'll be sure to send the link to him. So his office is literally across the hall from me, and we have big glass windows. So it's kind of like a fishbowl. So it's literally glass to glass that
Oh
him and
wait,
I.
so you have to stare at him all day long?
As you can tell, I make my desk face the other way, so he
Okay,
gets like
okay,
a side profile of the beard only. So
nice,
it's just a
nice.
side profile. So
All right. Well, I really appreciate your time, Dana. Thank you again. Happy holidays to you and your family. Oh, congrats again. Excited. I will get up to Portsmouth. I don't think
love to
people
have you.
realize how many, besides seeing you and the rest of your team, it's like a little mecca of equipment finance companies up there. It has to be at least
There
like
are a
eight or
lot
nine.
locally. Yeah, between Stratham and Dover, and there's a couple downtown Portsmouth. So yeah, we there's it's quite the hub. You wouldn't think it, but there are quite a few. So I really appreciate you having me on the show. Look forward to seeing you at the next golf outing. And happy holidays to you and your family.
All right. Thank you very much, Dana. Have a good day, man. Take care.
You too. See you, bud.
All right. Bye.